You know, it's a good thing that Stevie Bongrips is on spring break this week. I let you know that yesterday when I went to touch base with him before that Detroit-Colorado game. I wanted to see how he was feeling about the Red Wings' chances without Dylan Larkin these last 2 weeks. But he let me know he was on spring break, and good for him. Hopefully he was at Senor Frogs last night instead of watching the Detroit Red Wings take an absolute beating at the hands of the Colorado Avalanche. But you know, Stevie Bongrips' loss is your gain because those Avalanche player point props and the Avalanche winning, we got those 2 McKinnon points nice and early, and we got the over 1.5 points for Mikko Rantanen at like plus 150. That was nice. And when I made this video, when I got it out there, the early sniff catches the worm, McKinnon was at plus 105. By the time the game started, if you took it right before the game started, it was up to minus 140. So you live by the early sniff, you die by the early sniff. Yesterday on the video, I told you, oh my God, 2 teams out of it. There could be some potential ruckus in that Ottawa-Anaheim game. Well, obviously, if you're even remotely a hockey fan or follow the game whatsoever, you realize by the time the puck dropped on that game, Tarasenko was traded, Henrique was traded, Terry, McTavish, Carlson, all ruled out. Obviously, there was no Norris. All the skill players were gone. When Alex Killorn and Ryan Strome, 2 people who we bet against to register a point for an entire postseason, are on your top line and top power play, you know there aren't many skill players on that ice, so I was completely out for the over 6.5. I communicated that to the Patreon people, so hopefully you were able to weasel your way out of that. Actually, you know what you can do in those scenarios while I'm here giving some advice? If you were stuck with that, over 6.5, Ottawa scored right away in that game. So the live line adjusts immediately. You can take the under because they're going to adjust it to 7.5 or something like that. And you can kind of do your own live cash out if you look at the live totals and whatnot. That's how I do a lot of my hedging, but that's another story for picking corners. One thing that I do want to say is the messages I get when people are like, all the people who get frustrated, it's always with unders. And that's wild to me because that's how I feel about overs. I don't know how you guys bet overs and feel good about it. As I've mentioned to you a million times, there are a million paths to an under. You saw 2 of them last night. You had a half mail-in Buffalo. Oh, Buffalo also traded Middlestat during the game, so they were short some guys. So that game was 1-1 halfway through the game, and then it was lollygagging. Okay, there's an under right there. Then you had 2 depleted teams just waiting for the postseason. I don't understand. To hit an over, you need everything to go right. You know, how about this? How about I get the overs out of the way? If you want to take overs, I saw 3 that I can greenlight. I'm getting them out of the way. These aren't my favorite plays, but if you're an overs guy and you need to bet overs because you're a 9-to-5 guy with a Chase debit card and the MacBook Pro, and you have 2 kids and you watch Friday movies at 8 o'clock and you have a midnight snack and you drink some milk in the middle of the night, then I got some overs for you. The first thing, Edmonton-Columbus. We've seen some Columbus ruckus. We saw it home against Vegas, then on the road against, I believe that was Pittsburgh. So they've been engaged in a couple overs. I know you've seen some Edmonton unders, but I think a lot of that has to do with their opponents like Boston. So this one definitely has the ingredients for some potential ruckus. I did see the over at 6.5. So cross your fingers, hope that goals go in, and you don't have to deal with one of the 5 million ways an under 6.5 can hit. The other 2 that I like, I saw listed at 5.5 on a couple of sites. Number 1, the Islanders and Sharks, and that obviously has to do with the Sharks. Almost any team can score 4 in San Jose. So you put that in, maybe if San Jose just gets a goal or 2, 5.5 in San Jose is an extremely doable number. And then the Vancouver Golden Knights game. I think both of those teams can get to over 5.5. Now let's go to where I like to go. Unders and certain games. The first game is probably my favorite pick of the night. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning at home against the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames, another team who is wheeling and dealing yesterday. They traded their best defenseman, Noah Hannafin. They sent him to Vegas. So now Tanev's out of that lineup. Hannafin's out of that lineup. They obviously traded Lindholm. They've been playing admirably. They've been doing a good job. In my opinion, there's only so long that can last. There's only so many pieces you can take away from the puzzle before the whole Jenga board just collapses. And we saw a little kink in the armor. They lost their last home game. Now they're going on the road against a Tampa team who's been waiting at home, and they desperately need the points. A Tampa team who traditionally, under Cooper, plays their best hockey as they are approaching the playoffs. They're sitting there in like the last wild card spot, and they desperately need these points. And on top of that, I saw that they stacked the top line together in practice. So we're going Stamkos, Kucherov, Point on the top line against Calgary. I like the Tampa Bay Lightning to win this game at home against the Calgary Flames. And I like that entire line. I'm going to take the over on their point props. Am I saying take everything together? No, Stamkos and the Lightning to win can probably get you them at plus money. But I'm talking about different assortments. You got Nikita Kucherov, over 1.5 points. I like that. Braden Point, it's like plus 150 for over 1.5. I'm hoping we get that Avalanche treatment from last night. Now, when the Avalanche are at home, they do have the ability to really go crazy. But if this power play clicks for the Lightning, all three of those guys are, key contributors on their power play and at 5-on-5. And Kucherov's always going to be on the ice for empty net situations. So I think there's a lot of different ways that line can register points at different times throughout the game. So I like the Lightning to win, Stamkos for a point, Point for 2 points, and Kucherov for 2 points as well. So that's what I like in that game. Now we can talk about some unders where I like to go. You're going over, I'm going under. Go ahead. You take that top level on the bridge. I'll go under. Trucks and all the disgusting stuff's allowed to go on the top level. I'll take the rain-free route, the lower level of the bridge heading out of the city. And that is going to start with the Florida Panthers. I don't understand. Am I seeing something wrong? Am I being tricked here? I'm seeing the Florida Panthers, who hold nearly everybody to under 2.5. We've had one blip on the radar in a month and a half. These interesting Montreal Canadiens who are cracking team streaks of holding teams to 2 or fewer. But they're not playing the Canadiens on this night. They're playing the Philadelphia Flyers. We had to pay to bump up the Flyers the other night against the Blues, and that was 1-1 going into overtime. The Panthers at home, and we're going to be getting Bobrovsky because he didn't play the last game, against the Flyers. Both of these teams are vying for playoff positioning. In Florida's case, they're going for the President's Trophy. In Philly's case, by golly, those New York Islanders are going to be like 2 points. They're 4 points behind them with 2 games in hand. So Philly really needs to play well. And when you need points, we're approaching clenched ass cheeks territory. We're not there. I keep teasing it. We'll talk about it in April. April Fool's Day will bring out the clenched ass cheeks. But the under 6.5 in Philadelphia and Florida is something that I like, and I'm going to be taking. I think the fact that they listed this at 6.5, it ain't going to last. By the time you bet on this game, I hope it's listed at under 5.5. But I'm seeing it under 6.5. I've already got mine in, so under 6.5 with the Panthers and the Philadelphia Flyers. And then another set of teams. You may not believe they're in the playoff race, but they both certainly are. They're lingering in that wild card race territory in these. Remember, there's a quarter of a season left. People are so quick to just say, oh, season's over. If you're 5 points out, it's over. You can't make that up in 20 games. This is like week 12 of the NFL. The season isn't over. As Ryan Gosling once said, it's not over. It was never over. I sent those letters. Once a day, every day, for 365 days, I was telling you the Washington Capitals are slow and old. The Pittsburgh Penguins are a little faster and old, but neither of these teams can light up the lamp. Some of it's because they're old. Another part of it is because they're depleted. On Pittsburgh's side, there's obviously no Gensel. They're looking to trade him by Friday. There's still no Rust. On Washington's side, there's no Oshie. Kuznetsov's down there in Hershey. I don't know if you saw that. They're looking to trade Pacioretty. And they traded Mantha. So these are 2 depleted teams fighting for wild card berths. And in games like this, I'm going under 6.5 in this as well. When have these teams been lighting up the score sheet? And you're going to say, well, what about Pittsburgh last game? Yes, at home against a semi-ruckus team with the Blue Jackets who have been engaging those back and forth. But against, I don't even want to call it a division rival anymore. But in a game where points are going to be at a premium, I'm going with the under 6.5. Maybe one of these unders doesn't hit, but I'll find out when it happens. I'm going under 6.5 there. And then I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it. The Boston Bruins are playing good defense. Back-to-back games. Yes, they gave up an empty net goal to... They had Edmonton held to 0 goals through 59 minutes. They held Toronto in Toronto to 1 goal all game long. If you're going to be doing that, and I'm seeing it under 6.5, I'm taking that as well. I know Toronto can score. You probably would have thought that last 2 games, 2 goals, one of which came in overtime, and the game before that 1 goal. I'm just going to trust that Boston's goaltending is going to continue to do what it does, and they're going to build off those 2 solid 60-minute performances. Or should I say 59.5-minute performances. But I like the under 6.5 in that game as well. Unders across the board. And then lastly, we'll talk about those Carolina Hurricanes who have been sitting out since Sunday. In non-Hurricanes fashion, they blew a 3-goal lead on their own home ice in a game they were dominating. 3-0 Carolina against the Jets and lost that game, and they've been sitting on it. To me, against Montreal, I think they're going to look to eradicate that instantly. I want to take the Carolina Hurricanes to win the first period. And then there's also the first period 60-minute bet. And I'm going to choose Carolina. It's like plus 160 or something like that. And that's what I got for you here on a Thursday. There's obviously a whole assortment of player props. I don't have 80 minutes to make a video. You guys know with the player props, I post all those player prop parlays on the Patreon. I update it a couple times throughout the day. That's also where I let you know, I'm out on that 6.5. I am out on that 6.5. So if you want, you can join there. It's patreon.com/Andy Francess. If not, then just do me a favor. Like these videos, comment on these videos, share these videos with that guy you kind of know. You text about bets every once in a while. Say, I think you might actually like this. Very much appreciated if you can do those things. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here and click the notification so you know when the latest video comes out so you can get that early 6.5 price on Boston and Philadelphia before it's too late. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Take it easy.